morning, everyone, and welcome to Carrickfergus Vineyard Church. My name is Chantel, and we have recorded this in the beautiful surroundings of Lochmorn near Carrickfergus. I'd just like to welcome you to our church, and we're going to start with some worship now, but before that, let's still our hearts and let me pray. Join with me. Lord, I just thank you that you're with us, you're for us, that you love us. Lord, would you lift us up? Lord, as we join in with these songs, would we enter your presence? Would we give you glory and honour and praise? We love you, Jesus. Amen.
Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me. You know his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am.
Free at last he has ransomed me, his grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me.
Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am.
Just to let you know what's happening, we have had the Vineyard National Gathering online. It's been wonderful worship, amazing teaching. If you missed that, you can still catch up on YouTube. Our life groups have started, and you can still join some of those. Some of them still have spaces. We have coffee and chat at 11:30 a.m. after the service this morning. You can come online and Zoom, bring your coffee and catch up with a few people. And if God is really speaking to you, if something touched your heart during the worship or what Paul said, and you would like someone to pray with you, we have a prayer ministry team available as well during this service. You can sign up online. This Thursday, the 4th of February, we are having a day of prayer and fasting together if you would like to join in with that. And Monday the 1st of February, which will be tomorrow night, the Cat Money course is starting over 3 Monday nights on Zoom. A wonderful way to get a grip of your money and manage your finances better. And one for the ladies, we are staying connected by having an evening on Friday the 19th of February. We miss our supper and storytelling and being together, so we're going to do it over Zoom. A couple of ladies are going to share part of their story, and then there will be a chance to catch up with one another. And finally, if you want to give to what God is doing through the life of Carrickfergus Vineyard, we invite you to do that. You can do one-off or regular giving. So everything that I've just said, you can find about all those things on our website. It's carrickfergusvineyard.org. So go there and find out about all the things I've just said, some more information. That's everything that's coming up. And now it's over to Paul.
Well folks, here we are again, different location, Lochmorn, real favourite place of mine to come and to walk or run or cycle or whatever it might be. It's hard to believe that literally 2 days ago it was about 3 inches of snow, and we were loving together as a family, walking and throwing snowballs at each other and seeing our dog run around. Just a real gem, great place just to celebrate as much as we possibly can during these difficult times. So it's these difficult times really that we're really talking about. We're talking about we'll get through this, and we will get through this. We're on week 4 of this current series. We're looking at the life of Joseph, which you can find in the book of Genesis, starting chapter 37. So far over the last 3 weeks, we have looked at the fact that he had these incredible prophetic dreams as a teenager. He's 17 years of age. He shares those. His brothers hate him. He's the apple of his father's eye, and his brothers sell him off to a faraway land, and he becomes a slave. He's becomes servant to a very powerful man called Potiphar, and he's incredibly faithful there. He holds on to the destiny that God has for him in the future. He doesn't retreat or go into the doldrums. He actually thrives through this experience rather than just surviving. These are just some of the things that we've talked about over the last number of weeks. In that place of servitude to this powerful man, he becomes incredibly respected by the owner, by Potiphar, and he appoints him to higher ranks, and he becomes the overall person in charge of his household. And the Lord granted favor to him and favor to Potiphar and his household. And it granted so much favor that Potiphar's wife took a bit of a liking. That's what we talked about last week, and she invited him to go to bed with her on many occasions. And despite his difficult circumstances, despite having lost everything, despite being in a foreign, faraway land, he didn't make what was already a difficult situation even worse by making an absolute headbanger of a mistake by going there. He chose to be faithful, and he walked, in fact, ran the other way. And it was actually his good, godly, faithful choice that actually led him into trouble. And that's what we're going to look at now. That's the next chapter, really, of the story. And I need to be kind of quite quick because I've 16% left on the battery. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the sun is actually coming out. It's absolutely amazing. It's come over there. Can we maybe do a panel? Look at that. There's a prophetic message. Surely the sun is bursting through the clouds. I'm going to end up wittering on about something ridiculous. But it really leads us to the nitty-gritty, really, of what I want to share over the course of this teaching series. And that's simply things that we've said time and time again, that often God does the deepest, most profound things in our lives, often through hardship, through pain, and through suffering. And it's because it tests us, it refines us, and it forces us to draw closer to the presence of God. And it's a real hallmark of what I believe God is doing in our lives at this time. I want to read some verses. We pick up the story. We're in Genesis chapter 39, beginning at verse 19. When his master heard the story, his wife told him. So she told a lie. She told a spoof. She said that Joseph, in fact, was the one who was making a pass at her. And he left his cloak behind. We know that in the preceding verses that was not true. But that nonetheless, that's what she told him. This is how your slave treated me. He burned with anger. Joseph's master took him, that's Joseph, and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. What do we know? Potiphar's wife was the unfaithful one. Joseph said no. He ran away from the temptation. She spins a line to Potiphar, who then believes it. No trial was given, no court case was had, and he is sent to prison on the false testimony of his wife. This indeed is unfair. This indeed is unjust. Absolutely. One of life's big questions is why do bad things happen to good people? And that's a real tricky one. And I'm not going to even attempt to answer that question directly, but there are some things, some principles that we'll learn during the course of what it is I want to share. And the first thing really is this, that ever since we pick up the story in Genesis chapter 3, when evil enters into the world, we begin to see that Satan, the devil, the enemy, has a degree of rule and reign here on earth. And Peter writes in his first letter that Satan prowls around like a roaring lion. And Jesus said in John's gospel that the enemy, the thief, comes to rob, kill and destroy. And that ultimately for centuries the enemy is going after people, going out to ruin and wreck people's lives. And for those of us who are followers of Jesus, those who are seeking the things of God, the enemy will be coming hard and fast at us. However, it's at this point that we need to remind ourselves in Joseph's story that what he says at the conclusion of it. And he says to his brothers, you intended this to harm me. What you did to me, brothers, all those years ago, you did it to harm me. But God intended it for good, and it was for the saving of many lives. And that was the conclusion that Joseph drew upon towards the end of the story. From an earthly point of view, the devil had Joseph where he wanted him, in jail, locked up, forgotten about, abandoned. The God-given destiny that the enemy knew of Joseph's future, he had him right where he wanted him, cut out, cut off, abandoned, isolated. But God allowed it. And the question is why? Well, it's because of what God would do in Joseph during that time, during that trial, during that time of testing. Later in the scriptures, many years ago, later it would be written about Joseph, and it was written in one of the Psalms. Psalm 105, verses 17-19 says this: He sent a man before them, Joseph, who was sold as a slave. His feet they hurt with shackles. He was put in chains of iron until the time that his word, in brackets, of prophecy regarding his brothers came true. The word of the Lord tested and refined him. And that really is part of the process. That's part of why God allowed Joseph to suffer so greatly, It was a period of intense testing and refining. And what the enemy intended to harm Joseph, God was using it to test and to train and to develop and to work deep in Joseph's soul. And it's really where he did the hard yards. This is the unseen miles before a marathon race. It's the bit that you don't see, but it's the stuff that's required to get across the line. This is the thousands of stomach crunches and work on a bag that fighters do before they enter the ring. This is the boot camp for military personnel who go on their basic training in the hope, in the intention of one day being a soldier. That's why if ever you watch that stuff, I love that program, SAS Who Dares Wins thing. And boy, they put them through their paces and they make them work and they test and push every single button. And it's all about testing and it's all about training to see whether someone has what it takes in order to fulfill something in the future. Now that's all of those different training kind of examples. But this for Joseph was the blood, sweat and tears. This was the isolation. This was the moment is, regardless of my circumstances that I find myself in, will I trust you? Will I hope in you? Will I stay faithful for what you've entrusted to me? And we see and we learn from those passages that we read about that Joseph remains incredibly faithful despite being where he is. This current time that we're living through is difficult. It is incredibly challenging. We've acknowledged that. It's costing us, sacrifices are being made, and we are finding it tough. Yes, we're praying for breakthrough. Yes, we're hopeful and anticipating, boy, this vaccine would hopefully bring us out of the woods and would be our get out of jail free card. But what is God doing in us during this time? It's a question we've asked many times. In many ways, it's no different. But what is it? What's God's future destiny? What's the future dreams that he has for us? But what is it that he's doing in us now? What is the testing? What is the training that we're embarking on right now? James writes, "Consider it a sheer gift, friends, when tests and challenges come at you from all sides. You know that under pressure, your faith life is forced into the open and shows its true colours. So don't try and get out of anything prematurely. Let it do its work so you become mature." God had big plans for Joseph. His plans were to lead another nation, the nation of Egypt, through a difficult time of famine. Bigger than that, and more importantly than that, God was preparing Joseph to save his family and God's chosen special people, Israel, and to save them and their future also. That was his destiny. And the prison and the being sold and the being mistreated was all part and parcel of what God was wanting to do in him. You may recall a time I did an interview with Dina Nimick. Dina's part of our church. And I remember catching up with Dina, I'm guessing summertime at some point. It's when restrictions were easing, we were coming out of the first period of lockdown. I remember having this conversation with her, and she works alongside people who have physical needs, and she would go and she leads a team of folks who help basically put the right provision in place for people who are often isolated, people who because of their condition require the help of other people and are often subject to time alone. And I remember having this conversation with Dina, and she sort of said something along the lines of, this period has been incredibly difficult, but what it is doing is it's training other people that take so much for granted in life, that take things just so easy. And she was really appreciating and trying to liken the circumstances that many of us have found ourselves in periods of isolation, in our own homes, by ourselves, quantifying that and trying to see that's what it's like for many people, many in our society, in our neighborhoods, down the road. And I remember her saying, we've come out of this period maybe just a little bit too soon. And she sort of said something like, oh, just a bit longer, Lord, just a bit longer, just so it really hurts. And I was kind of thinking, what are you talking about? I want to get out and play. But I totally understood where she was coming from. It was like just a bit more, so that it would embed deep in us. It would be something that we have experienced, that we have gone through, something that we will therefore always learn and understand and appreciate about so many other people in life. Joseph went to prison unfairly, but there the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness, he granted him favour, especially in the eyes of the prison warden, who clearly is the one with the keys. He's the one who holds the power and authority there. And the warden puts Joseph in charge of all the other inmates. I mean, it's totally nuts. I mean, how many prisons would operate like that? It's like, okay, I'll give you the bunch of keys there, and I can trust you. You can look after those guys there, and you know. And here we see in Joseph the same thing that happened when he went to Potiphar's house. He goes to Potiphar's house with nothing, but he's faithful. And Potiphar sees good in him, and he sees that God is on him and is bringing him favour. So he gives him a bit more, and a bit more, and a bit more. And the same thing is happening in prison. He sees that the Lord's with him. He sees that he can be trusted. He sees that he can be faithful with a very small thing. And actually, what God is doing in that moment is he's training him for the future. If Joseph can be trusted with a household of other servants, if Joseph can be trusted with other inmates who've done other crimes, not that he had done a crime to get there, but if Joseph can lead those people and be faithful to them, then he can lead a nation, and he can lead another nation. And it comes down to the parable of the talents that we read about in Matthew's Gospel. Those who are trusted with little, God gives more and gives more and gives more. And it would have been very easy for Joseph to have literally wallowed in his self-pity. And I'm not saying, it's not documented in the Bible. I am sure, I would be hopeful that he had some pretty bad days and he went through the mill himself. And sometimes actually it's a shame maybe that stuff's not documented. I'm not saying it is, but I suppose it were and did happen. With 10% battery, I need to speed up. God has not forgotten us. He has not forsaken us. He has not abandoned us. He is not punishing us. He has not left us. Excuse me. He knows what you're going through. He knows what we need. He understands how difficult and how painful this is. But he's inviting us, if we would allow him, to draw near to him at this time. He is inviting us to go beneath the surface, to, on a previous teaching, go there and allow him access to all areas, to say, God, what is it that you're doing in me during this time? Does he not have the power and authority to do so? Is he not the potter and we are the clay? Is he not the shepherd and we are the sheep? Is he not the gardener and we are the branches? And is he not the teacher and we are his students? This time is temporary. It will not last. There will come an end and we will get through this together. Instead of asking God to change your circumstances, how about we ask him to use these circumstances to change us? Joseph underwent hardship and training, and I believe that God is training and testing us during this time as well. I want to end by just simply saying we're pondering the future of what church life looks like, and in many ways we don't know. That instills great confidence, I'm sure. But in other ways we do, and we're really expectant, we're really hopeful, we're really prayerful that as we enter, hopefully all being well, to a place where we'll be able to gather again together in the future, that there will be faces that we've not yet met, that there will be people's stories that we've not yet heard, there will be relationships and friendships yet to be discovered, because we believe and we trust and we're hopeful that the Lord will add to our number. There are already many folks that through Zoom and through Alpha and through conversations and Facebook or whatever it is, there's connections being made to us. And I'm sure there are also many others as well gathered towards you who are listening. And we're really, really expectant and hopeful. But what if God is right now teaching and training you for kingdom purposes in the future? What is it that God's spoken to you about? The dream that he has for you, the vision that he's giving you for the future. What might it look like? What is it that God's inviting you to do? But what is it that he's doing in you now to train you for the future? What if God uses your mess to become his message to others? Let's pray together. Let's just spend a moment just stilling our hearts and just inviting the Holy Spirit to just come again afresh to you. Just invite him, just welcome him. It could be all manner of things racing through your minds right now, and I just encourage you just to try and be still, to still your scattered senses, your scattered mind, and just welcome him, beckon him. God, would you come to us again? You know what it is we need. And I just believe that God's just inviting us. He's inviting us to have relationship with him. He's inviting us to say yes to him. He's inviting us to trust him. And whatever it is that he's inviting you to, I'd encourage you, just say yes. Stop fighting. Stop hiding. Stop running. He has you where you are right now for a reason. And just allow him to do what he's wanting to do. Amen. Folks, just continue just to allow him to do stuff with you now if that's what's happening. Don't rush away. Don't rush away from a holy moment. And again, invitation, prayer ministry. If you'd like someone to continue to pray with you right here, right now, go to our website, you'll find that out. Or it might be that God's just inviting you to have a conversation with someone this week. And again, responsibility's over to you. Lift the phone, go for a walk, if you feel comfortable with that, whatever it is. Do this together, but do this with him. We'll get through this. Have a great week.